It's often said that you should be careful what you wish for, and that's definitely true if you happen to find yourself in a horror movie, where wishes have a tendency to deliver anything but the desired result. As we've explored previously, horror movie characters who make wishes usually don't end up getting what they want, at least not how they want it. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with 10 more horror movie wishes that went horribly wrong. Number 10. Being able to speak in The Jinn. 2021's low-budget supernatural horror The Jinn revolves around a mute boy, Dylan Jacobs, who moves to a new house and discovers an old book with instructions for summoning a Jinn. That is, a genie. Even though the book flatly warns that the Jinn will grant wishes to users in a way that results in unintended consequences, a desperate Dylan nevertheless wishes via sign language to finally have a voice. Dylan certainly gets his wish granted by film's end, but it's absolutely one he ultimately comes to regret with every fibre of his being. After surviving a night of torment at the hands of the Jinn, in an attempt to test his strength of will before granting the wish, Dylan indeed gains the ability to speak, but this ability is consequently taken from his father, Michael. In the movie's final moments, a distraught Dylan comforts his wounded, mute father and begs the Jinn to return and undo his wish. However, with the Jinn having fulfilled his duty, it returns to its book, leaving Dylan to deal with the horrific fallout of his botched wish. Number 9. Bringing her friends back to life in All Cheerleaders Die. The aptly titled All Cheerleaders Die revolves around a group of cheerleaders who are killed in a car accident before being resurrected by their friend Lena using Wicca magic. What at first appears to be a miraculous revival is soon enough revealed to be anything but. The girls have in fact come back as ravenous zombies who must feast on human flesh. Oh, and most of their personalities have changed in wildly toxic ways. It's certainly not what Lena envisioned when she carried out the incantation, in turn causing a substantial body count and all but one of the cheerleaders ending up dead again by film's end. Though Lena seems to get something of a happy ending when she reconciles with her ex, the one surviving cheerleader Maddie, the sequel-baiting stinger more or less puts the kibosh on that. As Lena and Maddie kiss, Lena's magic inadvertently resurrects one final cheerleader, Alexis, who appears to be very, very angry with Lena about it. The end. Number 8. Wishing her mother would die in Pyewacket. Pyewacket follows a black magic-obsessed teenager, Leah, who following her father's death is forced to move to a remote house with her grieving mother. An intense argument between the two sees Leah head out into the nearby woods and wish for her mother's death, eventually performing a ritual to summon the demon Pyewacket to kill her. It doesn't take long for Leah to regret this though. She soon enough starts getting on better with her mother, forcing Leah to figure out a way to stop the demon. Leah's attempt to perform a ritual to undo the curse is interrupted when Pyewacket deceptively assumes the form of her mother. When Leah's actual mother returns home later, Leah is convinced she's really the demon in disguise, and so douses her in gasoline before setting her on fire, killing her. In the final scene, Leah is being interviewed by the police about the fire, and she realizes that, in fact, she burned her own mother to death while trying to defeat the demon. Her wish came true in the most horrifying, self-fulfilling manner possible, and long after she regretted making it. Number 7. Trying to resurrect Chucky in Bride of Chucky. Bride of Chucky begins with Chucky's former lover, Tiffany Valentine, taking possession of the Chucky doll's gruesome remains, stitching him back together and performing a voodoo ritual which she believes will resurrect him so they can be together again. The ritual indeed brings Chucky back as a doll, but after a short-lived harmonious reunion, the pair come to blows when Tiffany learns that Chucky never intended to marry her prior to his death. Tiffany responds by locking Chucky in a playpen, only for him to escape and murder her by throwing a TV in the bathtub, electrocuting her. The piece de resistance though, Chucky then enacts the voodoo ritual to transport her soul into the bride doll she mockingly bought, so she can feel his anguish of being trapped in a doll. Unsurprisingly, Tiffany isn't thrilled about living as a doll, and spends the rest of the movie teaming with Chucky to find human vessels to transfer their souls back into. Number 6. Saving her pregnant sister in absentia. Mike Flanagan's indie horror Absentia sees a pregnant woman, Trisha, struggling to deal with the reappearance of her husband after a 7-year absence, and how it relates to a mysterious tunnel which seems to be responsible for the disappearance of many local people. At film's end, Trisha and her younger sister Callie are attacked by a monster seemingly residing within the tunnel walls, resulting in Trisha also disappearing. Callie later returns to the tunnel to offer the entity a trade, wishing to lay down her life in order to save that of her pregnant sister. sister. However, because Callie isn't specific about the nature of the deal, simply shouting, "Trade!" the creature responds by materializing Trisha's bloody fetus, and when Callie attempts to flee the tunnel, the monster claims her also, leaving behind only her shoe. In attempting to make a bargain with the creature, Callie only ensured that both herself and her pregnant sister ended up trapped in the tunnel with the entity forevermore. What a bummer. Number 5. Wishing their fantasies came true in Hobgoblins. 1988's low-budget comedy horror Hobgoblins may be largely remembered as a frankly terrible Gremlins ripoff, but it's also entirely concerned with the notion that your wildest fantasies might not be so great in reality, especially if they're brought to life by the titular creatures. Basically, the Hobgoblins will make the dreams of anyone they encounter come true, but then use said dreams to kill them. Case in point, the movie opens with a security guard accidentally awakening the Hobgoblins and suddenly imagining himself as a rock star, but he ends up falling off the stage to his death. As for the movie's central characters, Amy wishes to be less sexually repressed and become a stripper, leading to her very nearly having sex with a nightclub's gross bouncer while under the Hobgoblin's control, until her friends save her. Then Nick becomes a brave commando, only to get set on fire after jumping on a grenade, yet bizarrely he returns later in the film with only superficial injuries. Eventually the heroes do triumph over the Hobgoblins and come to appreciate there's no magic shortcut to getting what you want. Number 4. All of Estrella's wishes in Tigers Are Not Afraid. The terrific genre-bending crime fantasy horror film Tigers Are Not Afraid centers around a young Mexican girl, Estrella, who is given 3 pieces of chalk, each of which will grant her one wish. Unfortunately though, not one of the wishes turns out how poor Estrella intends. First off, she wishes for her disappeared mother, implied to be a victim of cartel violence, to return, yet she only comes back as a ghost. For her second wish, after being tasked with killing a cartel member, she sneaks into his apartment with a gun and wishes that she doesn't have to kill him. In an instant, he dies suddenly of his own accord without her needing to do the deed. And finally, street orphan Shine asks Estrella to use her third wish to remove the burn scars on his face. Though she initially refuses after the negative outcomes of both prior wishes, she eventually relents at film's end, at which point crime boss Chino suddenly shows up and shoots Shine in the face, killing him. Yeah, after the first 2 wishes went so horribly awry, it was probably time to quit, don't you think? Number 3. Bringing her son back to life in Death Dream. Bob Clark's 1974 cult horror film Death Dream is unabashedly inspired by W. W. Jacobs' short story The Monkey's Paw, which of course revolves around wishes which have unintended consequences. The movie begins with American soldier Andy Brooks dying in the Vietnam War, but his grief-stricken mother Christine categorically refuses to accept his death and wishes for him to return, and then inexplicably shows up at the family home in the middle of the night, the family relieved at an apparent clerical error reporting his demise, no matter that Andy claims that he was indeed dead. As it turns out, Andy has come back as a supernatural revenant, not unlike a vampire or zombie, who needs to inject himself with the blood of others to keep his decaying body operational. This leads to many deaths, including the suicide of Andy's own father after he sees what has become of his son, before Andy finally wastes away to nothing in a graveyard and his mother is left grieving over his rotted remains. Was it really worth it, Christine? Number 2. Wishing her dad was dead in The Outing. 1987's cult B-movie The Outing revolves around an ancient lamp which contains a malevolent Jinn, and a bracelet which, when worn, will grant the wearer's wish. When the lamp and bracelet end up in the possession of her archaeologist father, teenager Alex Wallace sneakily tries the bracelet on, and following an argument tells her father that she sometimes wishes he was dead. Yeah, you can probably see where this is going, right? First and foremost though, this enables the Jinn to possess Alex and embark on a brutal killing spree at the Natural History Museum where her father works. After Alex's friends have been killed by the Jinn, her father realizes what's happening and races to the museum to save her. And just as she wished, he ends up paying a fatal price for it. Alex's father is killed by the Jinn, and the Jinn then uses his corpse in an attempt to trick Alex, who didn't see her father die. Alex figures out the ruse, however, and finally banishes the Jinn by throwing the lamp into an incinerator. All the same, maybe just leave ancient trinkets alone, yeah? Number 1. Witnessing the merman in The Cabin in the Woods. While not a wish in the strictest, most magical sense, the cabin in the woods Steve Hadley, a technician at the mysterious facility where the world-saving rituals are carried out, makes several references throughout the film to the merman he's never seen. Steve's always wanted to see a merman show up during one of the rituals and murder the nubile teenagers, yet despite his long tenure, he's never seen it appear, and seems deeply disappointed by this, enough to bring it up quite a few times. But Steve certainly gets his desire by film's end, when the facility's menagerie of creatures are all let loose, resulting in a massacre. This includes the merman, which slithers up to an injured Steve amid the chaos and promptly murders him. Hilariously, Steve even plainly appreciates the irony of his situation, saying, "Oh, come on," in the moments before the merman brutally ends him. And that concludes our list. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.